Product provided by Nintendo. Do you feel like a scrub in Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition? Well, you've come to, well, an okay place. Hello everybody, I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and in today's video, I want to give you all some quick tips to better understand how Xenoblade X really works and how you can just get overall drastically better at the game quickly. Because chances are there's a few mechanics you may not be understanding completely or just straight up ignoring. Kinda like what I was doing for a bit there. But let's get into it right now, shall we? The first big one is what I call gem slots because I have MMORPG brain rot and applies to your actual gear. Do you see on like pieces of gear that you have, those additional effects? They're rather important. They can provide either situational buffs or just massive buffs across the board that can turbo drive your power level overall and make you go from feeling like you're hitting enemies with a wet noodle to, I want to say, a thermonuclear bomb attached to whatever weapon you have. And you can see on my archetype sword, my long sword, because I play duelist right now, I have 4 additional effects on this thing. Melee attack up X, which is Roman numerals for 10. Insectoid criticals up 4, I don't care about that one. Extend thermal res down 4, I don't care about that one either. But then one that looks a little bit different, melee attack up 5 because of the blue circle thing. Well, the thing about this system is, you can modify it. It's actually a rather large chunk of this game's customization and RPG elements that it doesn't really force you to master, at least at this point in the game that I'm at, which is after Chapter 5. But it's something you can take advantage of right near the start to just drastically increase your power level. Because some gear will not have any open slots, like this one right here. There's only Resist Topple 5 and no additional slots. But if I work my way down to the Worn Cobalt Slayer 2, you can see there's a blank spot there. And you can add something into that slot. And it's something you may overlook. It even tells you right there, you just have to hit CL. You do that, it tells you what these actual battle traits are, and then you go down to the empty slot, you hit A to update, and then you can, like, put in whatever augment you have that you just want to put into that weapon. It's a very basic system, but I overlooked it for the longest time, and I know quite a few people in my stream chat also just kind of glossed over this. But once I started to interface with this system, my power level really skyrocketed because I was able to insert a bunch of melee attack up because that's where my main source of damage is coming from personally. So I was able to really, get a lot of damage that I always had access to, I just wasn't taking advantage of. You can also make these as well, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. What we're going to do is just head right on over to Armory Alley in New Los Angeles. We're just going to head right here and teleport there. And it's going to spawn you right here. And you're going to go to this terminal on the right called Arms Manufacturer. You're going to be going here quite a lot throughout the game. You're going to access it and you're going to go down to Engineer Augments. What this lets you do, you're going to make those augments to slot into empty slots and just gain a bunch of power. So for the ones I particularly care about, I go to Weapon Augments, Stat Augments, and the one I really like is Melee Attack Up, which is right here. I can go in here and I can make Melee Attack Up 1, 5, 10, 15, or 20. Those are like really late game, but I've crafted it before, and that's why I have a Melee Attack Up 5 right here to go alongside my Melee Attack Up 10. I have baseline with this crafted sword. So it makes this sword way more powerful because it just gives it an extra 30 attack for melee. And where my damage is coming from, my damage profile, almost all physical melee attacks with my sword. So this just works really well for me. I even put a melee attack up 5 on my ranged weapon. I don't know if that's really good, but I did it anyways. And I equipped gear that gives me more melee attack up. I have this really good arm that gives me melee attack up 6. I got Irina's armware, which is melee attack up 3. And like, bear in mind, I'm still rather low level and we're not optimized all that much. It's just, you can start optimizing your character rather early on and get a lot of benefit out of it. Also, don't forget about your skills. Skills are your passive buffs, and they can be extremely important. Like, the large bulk of my damage is not just coming from those augments previously, they're coming from here. Look, I am Duelist, so I went for, well, Duelist, and I have 3 skills that I really like using right now. Mighty Muscle, which just gives me a flat 30% melee attack boost. That's really nice, isn't it? I have Iron Knuckle as well, which comes from Samurai Gunner, which boosts physical damage by 50%. Again, that works with this, I believe. So it's just a bunch of extra damage because I'm doing physical melee attacks. so I'm reaping the damage from both of those. And then on top of that, I have Dismantler. I've leveled all of these skills up to max, by the way, which I would significantly recommend that you do because they make them way more powerful. I have Dismantler, which gives me a 50% chance, so a 1 in 2 chance, of dealing 150% more damage to appendages when I'm using melee arts. I already told you, for me and my build, I'm going melee. So I'm making use of this almost all the time, and most of the things that I fight have appendages. So all I have to do is target those appendages, and I'm not just getting 30% extra melee attack. I'm not just getting 50% extra physical damage. I'm now also, every other attack on average, 150% more damage on top of all of that. And let's look at my odds. Again, not the most optimized, but just look at the synergy. I have offensive stance. While this does require TP to use, I gain more melee accuracy, more melee attack, and while I take more damage, I care about doing more damage. I have Decoy Round, which inflicts taunt and boosts my TP, but Rising Blade, which I maxed out, deals weapon damage. It has physical damage, because you can see in the attribute slot right there, the damage Rising Blade does is physical, and it's single target, but it is physical. So all those buffs I'm talking about before, they work, and this ability, when an enemy is targeting me, does even more damage. So I'm getting all these damage modifiers. I forego using abilities like Flame Grenade or Burst Grenade because they're different damage profiles. They're dealing thermal damage. They're inflicting blaze. That's not my build. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but that's just not my build. They're not synergizing with the rest of my kit. So I decided to just bench those, and instead of using these abilities which deal more damage and topple, I elected to just do more Rising Blades. Another buff, Magnum Edge. Well, more like a debuff. It does weapon damage by itself, but it also inflicts physical resistance down, so I'm dealing even more physical damage. Do you see how all these things start to synergize with one another, and it just helps my damage to really explode? And I'm going to showcase what this can really look like in a minute. Granted, I'm not the best Xenoblade X player on the planet or anything like that. I'm nowhere close. But you can get a lot out of this game by just trying to interface with its mechanics, because there are a lot and it can be understandably overwhelming at first, especially if you're not accustomed to a lot of this stuff. Let me showcase all of this in motion here. Because again, I don't have to play the most optimal, rotation in the world or the most optimal setup. I still really need to actually pay attention to my other party members because they're unoptimized as all hell. But, look at what I can do. Look, I can target the appendage of this guy because he has an arm. I hit my soul voice. I'm gonna proc my buffs, apply physical resistance down, topple him, and now I can do this. And that guy's already dead. I have Soul Voice. I can do it again. I forgot to target a guy's limb there. I can do this. And I can just pump damage. Oh, look at this guy, level 26. Does it matter? Not particularly. I have double cooldown, bunch of damage. There we go. Love that. He's toppled. I'm going to use quick recast of my big heavy hitting ability and just pump damage into him. And he fell off the freaking map. Great, love that. Let the denizens of the void down there take care of him. And I get all my loot. By the way, just as a heads up, later on, you're gonna want to farm pugilists and puges later on for skill pots and just weapons and stuff like that. They're really dang good. So yeah, just like that. And I went from being overwhelmed by more than one mob that was around my level to starting to feel extremely comfortable just targeting entire groups of mobs. Because I didn't have to really concern myself with anything else. Because I was doing so much damage, it was kind of laughable. All these other buffs that I have are working with each other and just pumping out a bunch of damage. By the way, if you let the cooldown tick twice and you get that yellow circle filled around an ability, it'll do even more damage. Look at this. And he's dead. Just like that. Let's make our way over to level 28 so it can show off against a large enemy that's even higher level. I'm gonna target its cannon. Cannon's already almost destroyed. I missed that input as well. Great, love that. Yeah, great guy, Jmulls. Just missed your QTEs. Here we go. Notice how I'm not even using overdrive yet, by the way. I actually haven't even used overdrive in this game yet, because I just unlocked it at the end of last stream. Now, all I have to do is just, spam this one button, because all my buffs are just like pumping out a ton of damage. Because I tend to find in a game like Xenoblade X, it's better to specialize into one specific thing, especially when the game gives you something like quick recast, and you can really make advantage of all these individual buffs working together. I can optimize this a lot more as the game progresses, but my damage is only going to go up from here. And like, that was a level 28. That guy was 4 levels above me, and I made him look as if he was 10 levels below me. The thing with Xenoblade X is that you can kind of get through the game without really understanding or interfacing with most of its systems, and you can kind of get through it rather comfortably. Maybe a little bit slow in places, but like, you can do it. But if you really start to take some time and just read and like try and pay attention, which I'm just telling myself this as well, by the way, don't worry. I wasn't the best in this regard either. Like, you just want to hit your soul voices, which again are just your party members calling out for certain types of arts to be utilized. You just do it. Get the target toppled. If you can, get a secondary cooldown going. And then, boom. Look at that. I have quick recast. I can do it again. I can do it again. Level 29, dead, just like that. And again, this is without a skill, and this is without the utilization of overdrive. And I'm not that far into the game. I only just beat Chapter 5, and beating Chapter 5 gives you overdrive. So, like, you can do this before as well. And, like, this logic doesn't only apply to longsword or whatever. If you have a specific weapon style that you just really like, you can just apply this logic to it. Just look at your damage profile, see where most of your damage is coming from, what abilities do you like using? What synergizes with those abilities? Can you really, like, lean into them as much? Or are you leaning into them as much as you really can? Think of stuff like that. I went with melee physical for duelist because that just seemed like the best options I had available to me as a duelist. But, like, I could probably go for a thermal build for more thermal damage and do a bunch of fire stuff like that if I wanted to. It's just a matter of looking at what your class does, what types of abilities does it bring to the table, what type of damage do they do, and how can I best optimize that damage. The quick cooldown is extremely powerful. You can use it in such a way to just spam your most powerful ability. You can. I do that quite often, right? What you can also do, though, use it to inflict topple if the enemy is already staggered or something like that, or, like I said earlier, if your party members are calling for specific abilities to be used for, like, soul voices, if they're on cooldown, quick recast it, and then there you go. Then there's one other component this game does, like, tell you about, but it can be kind of hard to really understand this system and to properly, like, min-max it. Again, I'm not the best in this regard either, but these nodes, the FN sites you've been, like, putting down across the world, these generate you items, they generate you currency, and they generate Moranium. These are all things you care about and will want a lot of. And there's a bunch of, like, alien debris or, like, white whale parts that fall around the world, and you can go collect them by doing that, like, one button prompt. You have to hold down the A button, and you can get a chance at getting these, like, nodes. So what you do is you just go to an FN site. I have an empty one right over here with 301. You look at the numbers over here. Not numbers, but the letters. Production, revenue, combat support. Production is for mining. So that's going to be like your mineable resources. That's going to be Moranium. Revenue is for money. I don't even know what combat support is. But this goes to show you don't even have to fully understand the system to take good advantage and good use of it. So for here, this one has an A in production. It would behoove me then to put a mining node there, which benefits off of production. You see how the stat goes up for production but goes down for revenue? But this has an A rank in production and an E rank in revenue. So it is smarter for me to put down something for mining here. Bob's your uncle. And now, every now and then, passively, I'm just going to accrue stuff. This only has a B in production, but I get mineable resources like Infernium, Oxand, or Lionbone Bort. You use this stuff in stuff like crafting and other stuff like that. I would like to have those resources. I'm going to put down a mining probe G6. Like this. There we go. And now I'm mining those resources. I don't have to do anything from here on out other than just wait. and then periodically all this stuff will just give me resources. You can cap out on Muranium rather quickly, by the way, so I like to put down a few storage nodes. They're not going to do anything outside of just, well, increase my maximum amount of Muranium that I can hold. So I have a couple down over here and stuff like that. So my storage limit for Muranium has skyrocketed all the way up to 21,000. And something I would heavily suggest that you do and make use of early on is investing into your corporations. We are going full capitalist mode, people. That is right, we're back in Armory Avenue, whatever the hell this place is called. We're going back to the arms manufacturer terminal, the AM terminal. This will be your safe space. This will be your cozy little corner. This is where all your hopes and dreams will be both crushed and also realized. You care about this terminal. You want this terminal. You want to borderline make love to this terminal. What you're doing here is not just making those augments from before. You're investing in arms manufacturers. Like, we are leaning into the military-industrial complex because it benefits us specifically. That's what we're doing. I get a few little, benefits there, just passively. I don't particularly care about that. This is my main use of Muranium. Not just in terms of buying resources, but throughout most of the game, where you're probably not going to be making use of Muranium all that much, just dump it here. Because trust me, I had to go through this hell on the Wii U version, where I just ignored this system entirely until, near the end game, and then I just had to wait around a bunch to generate a bunch of Muranium to develop these companies, because I just hadn't done it up to that point. It took a long time. You can get a lot of this done just by playing the game, because you're generating the stuff passively because you put your nodes down before. So when your Muranium is capped, or you have a bit of extra Muranium, and you find yourself near the AM terminal, just hop on over here, dump it in. Yeah, you just have to dump it in. I didn't level it up, but if I put enough Muranium in a specific company, they will level up and give me access to even more stuff. One of the reasons I'm investing in Candid Incredible right now is I believe at some point down the line, when I get them to a specific level, they'll start giving me items that give me increased drop rates for items, or just more drops overall. That's really good for farming. I would like that. So I'm investing in Candid Incredible right now so that I can eventually unlock that gear, so when I get closer to endgame and want to really start grinding and putting that work in, I already have the ability to buy or craft those pieces of gear. It's a really important system that the game does tell you, but it doesn't really drive home how important it is. Another important thing, going back to the augments, the battle traits. Upgrade battle traits. You can just upgrade them. Go to my equipped gear. If I had the resources, I could upgrade melee attack up 10 to melee attack up 11. I would just need those resources on the right there, which I don't have right now, but I could upgrade, say, my potential. I can upgrade that. There we go. Upgraded more. And there you go. I have a maximum of 5 upgrade slots for this weapon, so I was able to upgrade potential up 5, all the way up to potential up 10. Let's go on over to Elma. Survival bodywear, melee attack up 1. I can upgrade this a bit. I don't have all the resources for it, but I was able to upgrade it a little bit. Actually, apparently I do have all the resources because I only upgraded twice. Fair enough, but a bit of extra melee attack up for Elma there. You can also just develop new gear at this terminal, and you get pretty good gear every 20 levels. So at level 20, I was able to get Archetype Sword, which is the thing that I showcased earlier. This is the weapon I have. I went out and I got those materials, I came back here, I made the weapon, I upgraded it, I put an additional effect into it, and now I'm really rocking. You don't need to do that, you can just pay attention to it though, and if you feel like doing a big upgrade, go for it, why not? That's the joy of Xenoblade X I'm tending to find. It's just set out your own personal goal and just go for it because you think it's cool or fun. But this is what I'm talking about before. I have also access to thermal damage and blaze stuff. So if instead of physical damage I want to spec into that, I could pick skills like this. Conflagrate Edge. I could level this up for more thermal damage. I could, let's say, go for Blazing Auto. Grants a 10% chance of inflicting Blaze 1 when melee auto attacking. I could do that. I could also pick up Flame Trigger for more blaze damage itself. I could mix and match if I wanted to. I could go to my actual odds. What does blaze damage? Oh, Incendiary Edge. Thermal damage and boost damage in melee combos. Okay, it's thermal. One day I will learn the difference. Go over to here. Deals thermal damage and inflicts thermal res. Deals thermal damage. Another thing that synergizes with it. I can go down here. Burst grenade. Thermal damage inflicts blaze. Thermal damage inflicts blaze versus topple targets. Boost damage. What else? Yeah, over here. Burning slash. Thermal damage inflicts thermal res down. I could synergize stuff with that. I went with melee physical because it sounded more cool and better to me. But if you wanted to go that route, that's how I would suggest going about it. Looking at the damage profiles. What does this do? Does it apply anything that can make me do even more damage? Does it buff me up? Look for things that synergize with each other. So yeah, those are the kind of the tips that I've picked up relatively recently for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition that I would recommend you just like try and pay attention to or keep an eye out for, and possibly just explode your damage and the way you can engage and interact with Xenoblade X, because it's a game where the more you learn and the more you put in, the more you get out, and it's a great game because of that. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe. Leave a comment down below with your own tip, your own trick, or if you have a question, leave it down below. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.